1965, MoMA had its most popular exhibition in its entire history, the Responsive Eye, that introduced op art, op and kinetic art, certainly to North America as quite an international phenomenon. There were a lot of Latin American artists, very productive in these modes of art, who were not included in that exhibition. So part of the motivation for us to revisit that exhibition is to think about how that sort of thing happens. It's one of the reasons we call this the elusive eye. There are a lot of illusions taking place and maybe a parallel phenomenon that when you're looking at something, you're focusing on something, you necessarily lose focus on something else. I think we can apply it to the curatorial perception and its own blindness to what it doesn't focus on, what it's not immediately in front of it, as one way of thinking about the omission of artists who are not living in Europe. The dominant mode, in this kind of artwork is kind of taking us in a direction that is very formalist. Our take is to say, well, there is also this kind of intellectual history that parallels and then even goes beyond, Europe of the 19th century. The first room we're calling the optical sublime. And so we borrow from Kant the idea of the mathematical sublime where things are overwhelming. And we look at artwork in a similar way that has so much multiplicity going on that it is kind of disorienting and pleasing at the same time. The following gallery we call mandalas and dervishes. And you'll see works there that incorporate images that have geometric patterns, lend themselves to contemplation, to meditation in the way that traditional mandalas are. And we have a room on what we call the parallax apparitions, works of art that have elements sort of dangling in front of them. And when your sight lines shift, then things seem to move relative to one another in the object. Another theme is the kinetic cascades. And kinetic art refers to art that moves. And either art moves literally, like a mobile or a mechanical piece that moves, or it gives the impression of movement. It's nothing that is in the artwork itself, but really in the impression, the associations we bring to them. So what I find interesting about them is that it really always relies on interpretation. There's a kind of dual, maybe triple purpose involved here, and one is certainly to celebrate the works of art, the exquisiteness, the inventiveness, the beauty, in many, many cases of the work, and yet be able to do so in ways that can rethink even what the artists, may have conceived about their own work, so that we want to be able to celebrate on the one hand and rethink on the other.